So how much of this short call has to do with China?
Very little, actually. Part of, and you read part of that tweet, and the back end of that tweet was, we think they're going to cut numbers, even excluding Huawei. So for us, we look at Huawei, and that's actually a risk that these stocks go up, because as we all know, and you've been talking about, there might be a meeting between President Xi and President Trump at the end of the month. That gets resolved, obviously. That should be good for semiconductors. So to some degree, all the companies have come out. They've already, or not all, but a good portion of companies have come out. They've said, okay, Huawei's this percentage of revenues. We're cutting our forecast based on that, and so they've lowered. The issue I have is with fundamentals outside of that. So if you look at whether it's PCs, which we think will shrink this year, you look at smartphones, which next year will be the 5G cycle, which is when I think you'll start to see growth. We think smartphone units will be down this year. Automotive, China's been 10 months, I think, now of negative auto sales year over year. And you look at things like hyperscale spending, what Facebook spends, Google spends. That went from being up a tremendous amount last year to now companies are cutting forecasts based off of that. So it's really outside of all this, and as I think Kevin mentioned earlier, the market's richly priced. Semiconductors are priced even more richly. I mean, they were hitting all-time record highs back in April when we were 1 to 2 quarters into a down cycle, which probably lasts another 2 to 3 quarters.
It sounds like you're buckling in for a long-term malaise then, because we were expecting a new smartphone cycle this holiday season, Apple and others, PCs too. But then after that, what's really going to change the demand picture if not the holiday season?
Well, I mean, the holiday season, I think, is going to be a big disappointment because Apple doesn't have a 5G phone. Who's going to go out and spend over $1,000 when if you wait another 12 months, you can get a 5G phone? So I think this holiday season, on the smartphone side in particular, is going to be a pretty big disappointment. And smartphones is the biggest end demand for semiconductors. And so it comes down to what are the fundamentals? Well, you've got at least another, the call yesterday that a firm made on semiconductors and why they downgraded finally is that they're like, well, you know what? We might have a problem until the back half of next year. And a lot of investors weren't necessarily thinking that. So I think the holiday season is actually when you could end up in real trouble in the semiconductor space.